Happy Friday, tropical fish keepers. Welcome to Species Profile here on Aqua Alex Live. I'm your host, tropical fish keeper, South American fish keeper, and monster fish hobbyist, Aqua Alex Cardinale. Today's the first time we're holding our tropical fish species profile on a Friday, and that was because my back was aching yesterday after bowling, so I figured I'd do the live stream today. This week's tropical fish species that I'm going to talk about is a fish that I grew up idolizing, a fish that I consider to be a childhood classic, and a fish that I have a lot of memories with. It is one of my all-time favorite fish species. Today we're going to talk about the Oscar Cichlid. Practically every aquarium hobbyist either has kept Oscars or they know about Oscar Cichlids. They are really, really common in the aquarium hobby, and they have been around for so long. My dad is almost in his 60s, and Oscars were around in his childhood, and they were certainly around in my childhood. But nowadays, there are plenty of different Oscar species out there, and a lot of them are all pretty cool. Now we even have some of the rarer wild-caught Oscars that are in a different species, but they're still in the Astronotus family. For example, we have the bumblebee Oscar, which is gorgeous. But we'll talk about that later on in the video. So I actually bought a 3-inch albino tiger Oscar, and I was really looking forward to showing him off on the video today. But unfortunately, I went to take a video last night and film him, but I found his carcass. I believe my Orinoco peacock bass got to him, and the other fish finished him off. So sadly, I currently, right now at this moment, do not have a Oscar, sadly, so I cannot show you any current Oscars that I have. But here's the good news. I'm actually trading my peacock bass tonight. I have a fish keeper coming over who is going to trade an 8-inch tiger Oscar for my 8-inch Orinoco peacock bass. So that's exciting. I'm looking forward to that. So tomorrow or Sunday, I'm going to put a video up of the new tiger Oscar right here on my YouTube channel, the legendary Alex Cardinale. He's also going to set up my canister filter. So my canister filter will finally be up and running, and I'm sure my water will look a lot better. But anyways, the show must go on, and even though I don't have a Oscar currently right this moment, I can talk about my experience with Oscars and tell you everything you need to know about Oscars. So this is going to be a fun video and a formal video, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So we're going to start today's video with some images of Oscars that I've kept over the many years that I've been in the fish keeping hobby, and all the Oscars that I've raised from juvenile into adults. And then I'm going to share some interesting facts about Oscars, and then we'll get into the care guide on Oscars. So I want to thank everyone that is watching this video, whether you're watching us live or you're catching a replay of today's video. I appreciate your view. I want you to know you can participate in the comments on this video. Let me know what you like about Oscar Cichlids. Just post them in the comments. And if you have any questions on Oscar Cichlids, post them in the comments as well. I'll make sure to answer your questions that you have on Oscar Cichlids. And also, you can tell me your favorite Oscar Cichlids if you like. Having said that, let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to start this video by having me show you some pictures. Oh, that's the wrong banner. I don't have a current Oscar right now. I'm going to start today's video by showing you some pictures of past Oscars that I have kept, grown, and raised. So let's get right to that. I have a lot of pictures to show you. So here is a tiger Oscar that I bought at 1.5 inches, and I grew him to about 8 or 9 inches until I gave him to my friend. And very, very gorgeous fish. I always been a fan of tiger Oscars. Here are a pair of Oscars that I grew up from juvenile stages to adult. It's a albino tiger Oscar and a regular tiger Oscar. They're both very stunning, and Oscars in general are a very beautiful fish. Here is an albino Oscar that I purchased at this size from a fish store. It was a trade-in aquarium, and they always had large Oscars there. And for some reason, I fell in love with this Oscar, and I bought him. Here is one of my older tiger Oscars that I grew out. This one I grew out from a juvenile stage to this size. This is that same albino tiger Oscar that I showed you earlier, and a tiger Oscar besides him. Here is that other tiger Oscar that I grew out from 1 inches all the way to 8 to 9 inches. Here is an albino tiger Oscar and a baby tiger Oscar that I grew out. And another Latino Oscar. Now, a Latino Oscar is what most places sell as an albino Oscar, but they're not true albinos because they have black pigment in them. And here is a red Oscar that I had with a group of Peruvian Altum angels, and the Peruvian Altum angels are actually scalars, so they're not really actual Altums, but they do great with Oscars. Those are just some of the Oscars in my 16 or 17 year fish keeping hobby that I have kept and raised. It goes without saying that I am particularly fond and interested in Oscars because I've kept plenty of them over the years. So those are images of the Oscars that I have kept and raised over the last, 16, 17 years. They are an amazing fish. And later on in the show, towards the end, I've got some videos and images of other fish keepers Oscars. I'm actually looking forward to getting another tiger Oscar. Like I said earlier, I'm trading my Orinoco peacock bass for a good-sized tiger Oscar later tonight, so I am looking forward to that. So now let's get into our first topic, now that we saw some images of the Oscars that I had, and we're going to talk about why I like the Oscar Cichlid. Well, I like that Oscars have personality. That's right, Oscars are one of many fish in the freshwater side of the hobby that have a lot of personality. They will recognize the owners that feed them. So when they see you have food in your hand and you feed them a couple of times, they're going to recognize that you're the human being that provides their food. So every time you come to the glass or you come by the aquarium, the Oscar is going to think it's feeding time. And that is when the Oscar is going to be excited. He's going to be out and about, swimming up and down the glass, expecting food. That is why the Oscar is known as a wet pet or a water puppy. It's because when it's feeding time, they have the same behavior as a dog or a puppy, which is really, really awesome. Another reason I like the Oscar Cichlid is that it grows to a manageable size. I like fish with size. I like fish that top out around 1 foot to 1.5 feet, and fish that have a lot of coloration and personality. And the Oscar certainly fits the bill. The Oscar has the personality. It has the size. It's a monster fish, but it's not like a pacu or a red-tailed cat where you're going to have to go build a pond for. You could simply get a 6-foot aquarium and keep a couple Oscars or more. And last but not least, I like that there are a plethora of different species and kinds of Oscars out there. You've got the regular albinos, the albino tigers, you got the regular tigers. And we're going to talk about all the different types of Oscar cichlids in just 1 second. So, what do you guys like about the Oscar Cichlids? Let me know in the comments below. Now, let's get to some of our interesting did you know facts about the Oscar Cichlid. Did you know there are many different types of Oscar Cichlids out there? Yes, that's right. Back in the days, there was just the tiger Oscar, and I think maybe the albino tiger Oscar. That was way back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And then come 80s, the red Oscar came about, and then the long-finned Oscar, and then some places started importing the wild caught Oscars. There are a plethora of different types of Oscar cichlids out there, but a majority of them all fall under the same species, and that would be Astronotus Ocellatus, the common Oscar cichlid. So I'm going to show you some pictures of some of the different Oscars there are out there. But first, let me tell you about the different kinds. There is the tiger Oscar, which is the common kind. It's the black Oscar with orange stripes and an orange tail, an orange circle on its tail. There is the albino tiger, which is basically the same thing, except the fish is a white body with with no black pigmentation. That's the albino Oscar. And you've got the Latino Oscars, which are basically the Oscars you're going to find at your fish store and pet store sold as albinos. They have the white body and everything just like the albino, but they have the black pigmentation. True albino Oscars are really hard to find nowadays, but the Latino Oscar is gorgeous nonetheless. Then there is the red Oscar, which is basically a black fish and a solid red coloration. So those are your basic types of Oscars: tiger, albino tiger, Latino tiger, and red. And also there could be Latino red or albino red as well. And from that, there's the long-finned Oscar, which I'm not a fan of because I think long-finned Oscars would be easy pickings for their tank mates. And then there's the short body Oscar, which again, I'm not a fan of because I don't like genetically modifying fish. So this is what a tiger Oscar looks like. That's a regular tiger Oscar. This is a solid red Oscar, and this is an adult specimen. A juvenile looks a little bit different, but a red Oscar will look like this as it gets older. And this is an albino tiger Oscar, very similar looking to a regular Oscar. Now, the bumblebee Oscar, which is a different type of Astronotus, will look like this, a very beautiful Oscar, and it has the bumblebee colorations, and it's an Oscar that I definitely could see myself keeping in the near future should I ever get my hands on one. And the wild-caught regular Astronotus Ocellatus looks like this. It depends on the locale of where the Oscar is caught, but the Astronotus Ocellatus looks like this in its wild, natural form. Still a pretty fish, if you ask me. Why is my computer doing that? Okay. Did you know Oscar cichlids are sadly one of the most mistreated fish? Yes, unfortunately, Oscars are one of those fish that get mistreated in the aquarium hobby. People that don't do their research end up purchasing Oscars and they cramp them in a 20-gallon or a 30-gallon aquarium, and they don't realize how big Oscars actually get. So this fish ends up having a sad, miserable life crammed in a small aquarium. And there's a myth out there in the aquarium hobby that fish will grow to the size of their environment. That is wrong. Fish will continue growing no matter the amount of swimming space they have. The fish will continue to grow, and if it cannot turn around, its organs are going to rupture, and it's going to suffer a slow and painful death. So that is why Oscars are sadly one of the most mistreated fish in the freshwater side of the hobby. People see them at Petco or PetSmart or even their local fish stores, they don't do their research. They buy this cute juvenile, they put it in their tank, and it grows massive. They don't know what to do with it, and they keep it in that small tank, and the poor thing suffers. So if you want to get Oscars, make sure you do your research. It only takes a couple of seconds to Google something, and there is a plethora of information on Oscars out there. And there's videos like this one on YouTube that gives you information on Oscars. So there really should not be an excuse of, oh, I didn't know that fish gets this big, because you've got Google at your fingertips, you've got social media at your fingertips, you've got YouTube at your fingertips, and you can learn how big this fish gets by simply doing a research. Did you know, sadly, Oscar cichlids are very prone to hole in the head. Hole in the head is a disease that can be caused by poor water quality or malnourishment and a bad diet. When I say bad diet, I think you guys know what I'm referring to, and that is feeder goldfish. Feeder goldfish is the #1 cause of hole in the head disease. And I would say poor water quality is the #2 cause of hole in the head. Some people say that it's genetics as well. Oscars may have it in their DNA to get hole in the head as they mature. I have no idea how true that is, but I have raised Oscars from juveniles into adults, and none of them had hole in the head. And that is because I never offered feeder goldfish, and I was doing water changes 3 or 4 times a week. You have to realize with Oscars, they're going to need to be on your A game when it comes to water conditions and maintenance on your aquarium, because Oscars do put out a lot of waste. So they're a large fish, they eat a lot of food, and they produce a lot of waste. They're going to need to be on top of your water changes. That takes care of the water quality. The other half of hole in the head is diet. If you're providing them feeder goldfish, a fish with very minimum to none nutrition, and a fish that has fatty acid that is known to cause damage to the organs of predatory fish, that's not really a healthy diet for any fishivore or any fish you're giving live fish as a treat. So I always tell people, no matter the species, whether it's Oscars or other fish, avoid feeder goldfish. Never offer them. Stick to tetras or baby convicts or fish that are not in the carp family. Those are better off as a live fish treat. Also, a much better alternate to live fish would be crayfish, it would be shrimp, and earthworms. So keep that in mind. Did you know the Oscar cichlids are very popular and easy to keep, making them suitable for people with a large aquarium? And when we get to our care guide, I'll talk about what size aquarium is sufficient for Oscars. So people with tanks that are decent enough to house a 12-inch fish, Oscars are a great fish for people that are looking for something that has personality. Did you know Oscars are not picky and will eat just about anything? I've seen people feeding Oscars hot dogs, again, which I don't recommend. I would never feed any fish any mammal meat. It is high in protein, it is high in fat, and it can cause a lot of damage to the fish's organs. But they'll eat just about anything from pellets to flakes to raw seafood, etc. Very, very cool fish. And one little cool fact that I figured I'd throw into today's show is that I could go to a canal right here in southern Florida and catch an Oscar. And that is something that I want to do in the very near future. Spring and summer is coming, so I have hopes of going out to a canal in southern Florida and catching an Oscar and a peacock bass and a false red terror. That would be pretty cool, and that would be a great upload here on my YouTube channel. So make sure you guys subscribe to my YouTube channel to see that, because I'm going to go out to the canals and I'm going to try to catch some Oscars and peacock bass. That would be phenomenal in my personal opinion. All right, now let's get on to our main event subject, and that is the care guide for the Oscar Cichlid. The scientific name for the Oscar Cichlid, the Oscar is fortunate in that it has a scientific name that I can actually pronounce. It's Astronotus Ocellatus, or you can pronounce it a number of ways, Astronotus Ocellatus, or any other way you want to pronounce it. But I know that Ocell stands for the circle on the Oscar's tail. And that circle on a natural Oscar's tail is a way for them to defend themselves against predators. Because in the wild, the Oscar's predators would generally be piranha, peacock bass, giant otters, giant Amazon River otters, dolphins, snakes, etc. So they use that as like an extra eye on their tail. And what's interesting is that eye on their tail, the eye spot on their tail, is kind of similar to how a marine betta defends itself in the wild. Common names for this fish are Oscar cichlid, tiger oscar, velvet cichlid, or marble cichlid. Their natural distribution and habitat is South America. You can find them in Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Paraguay, Peru, Uruguay, and Venezuela. But generally speaking, they're more commonly found in Peru, Brazil, Colombia, and Venezuela. And there are wild-caught Ocellatus Oscars that do come in to the aquarium hobby, and I try to get wild-caught as often as I can. I like to watch how the Oscar matures. Wild Oscars, when they're juvenile, like inch and a half, they're black fish with white stripes, which is absolutely gorgeous. And then as they mature, they get the black and red coloration. But watching a wild-caught tiger Oscar mature from black and white to black and red is stunning. At least in my opinion, it's like watching a tiger blossom from a zebra into that orange and black coloration that we all know and love. And like I said, there's the bumblebee Oscar, another variant and another species of Astronotus that is really, really cool. So a very, very awesome fish. So Rogers Aquariums is in the house. Hey Rogers, how you doing? Thank you so much for tuning in. And he says Oscars are a food source to the natives in South America. Sadly, that is 100% true. A lot of the fish that we keep from South America are diets for the people that live in South America. Oscars, arowana, silver dollars, pacu, even flagtail procelotus, pretty much everything that comes into the aquarium hobby, with the exception of anything that is microscopic, like neon tetras or rummy nose tetras, could be part of the food sources to the natives. I know the only fish for a fact that they won't eat would be red-tailed catfish or marble acara catfish, because they have a belief that catfish that are black in color have bad meat. So luckily for the red-tailed cats and the marble acaras, that's good for them. They get to live their lives worry-free. And they get so big that really an animal that tried to eat it would have a hard time swallowing it. There's really no predators for red-tailed cats in the wild, which is kind of good if you think about it. Okay, so let's talk about full-grown size for the Oscar cichlid. This is where it gets controversial because so many fish keepers will tell you that an Oscar will get to 18 inches. Some others will tell you 16, but I tend to believe that Oscars will max out around 14 inches. And I have a feeling that 12 to 13 inches is more likely in the aquarium hobby. I've never seen an Oscar above 14 inches. And the one Oscar that I saw that was 14 inches was 8 years old. So he pretty much had no more growing left to do. So I am going to assume that Oscars will reach up to 14 inches. And again, 12 to 13 inches is more likely for an Oscar. That's not to say that Oscars cannot exceed 14 inches, but it would be extremely rare for that to happen. And I fully believe it would have to be a wild caught Oscar that would exceed 14 inches because the wild caught Oscars have their full natural instincts, their natural ability to eat, and also excel the waste that they take in with their food. And they also have the ability to swim and things like that. A wild caught Oscar is known to actually hunt for its food, whereas a captive bred tank raised Oscar, they're pampered. They get hand fed and they don't have to really work hard for their food. But if you bring in a wild caught Oscar, they still have their natural instincts from being in the wild, which is pretty cool, which is why I'm a big fan of the bumblebee Oscars because they're still going to have that natural instinct. But I would say that the Oscar is certainly a monster fish and one that if you want to keep, you are going to have to prepare for it. You are going to have to get a massive aquarium and plenty of filtration because this is a fish by no means that could be kept in a 40-gallon or anything less than that because it does get big, it needs a space, and it needs superb filtration. So the recommended aquarium that I'm going to go with, and again, this varies from fish keepers to fish keepers. Some people will tell you, oh, 6-foot aquarium easily. But with clean water, superb filtration, and very minimum tank mates, I think a 75-gallon aquarium and bigger would be sufficient for a single Oscar. If we're talking about 2 or more, then you're looking at a 180 or larger. But for one Oscar, a 75 gallons and above is ideal. But if you're going to do a one fish tank, then I could see a 55-gallon being suitable. You would just have to keep up with the water conditions, have superb filtration, and do plenty of water changes. I'm a member of so many Oscar Facebook groups, and I see people arguing over tank size all the time. I have seen a person tell somebody, oh, you should not get an Oscar unless you got a 300-gallon aquarium. I was like, dude, what are you talking about, a Pacu? And then I have seen people belittle people that have Oscars in a 55 or a 75, and I just shake my head. So from my personal experience, I would say the recommended aquarium size for an Oscar would be 75-gallon aquariums and above. And if you only can afford a 55-gallon, I think you could have one Oscar if you do a lot of water changes and you're up to the task of maintaining superb water conditions and water quality. So that would be the recommended aquarium for Oscars, 75 gallons and above. Roger says, Alex, when I was a kid, I remember a 20-inch Oscar in Worcester, Massachusetts. That's definitely possible. I think back in the day, aquariums were much bigger than they are now. So the fish obviously had more space to swim and grow. I can actually see that happening in the older days because tanks are a lot bigger. But now tanks are a little bit smaller. Obviously, with the right conditions and plenty of swimming space, a fish could definitely grow past the recommended full-grown lengths. Again, even scientists will tell you when they tell people at the zoos or aquariums what an animal's life expectancy or size is going to be, it's only an estimate of what is seen in the wild. Animals could definitely get bigger than expected. So it is possible. I'm not saying that it can never happen. I'm just saying from my experience, I just don't see it happening frequently enough, but it would be possible. I would actually love to see a really, really, really monstrous Oscar. Although I would imagine an Oscar that is above 14 inches would be really old and probably not a appealing Oscar to the eye. I find that when Oscars start getting age, they kind of start looking like dull and ugly. So that is probably why I tend to be more fine-tuned and more interested into the juvenile teenage Oscars. But all Oscars are nice in my opinion. But when they start getting old age, then they start losing that color and stuff, and they become really, really stressed out from aquarium moves and things like that. All right, so now we know how big Oscars get and how big of a tank they need. Let's talk about aquarium care. Oscars are an extremely hardy species. Um, they can pretty much adapt to any water parameters, which is great because a beginner could easily keep an Oscar, and they need to know that the Oscar produces a lot of waste and is a fish that needs superb filtration. So the first thing I would say in terms of aquarium care for an Oscar is to get the best filtration that you can. So obviously we're going to be having a 75 gallon at the minimum and work our ways up to a 6 foot aquarium. If we had to use a hang on the back filter, I would use the Marineland Penguins. They're the best brand out there. Also, the Seachem Title 110s are great hang on the back filters, but canisters would be the best option. I myself am a huge fan of canisters, and I can't wait to see what my Fluval FX4 does on my 125 behind me. Canisters would be great in helping keeping your water quality good for your Oscar. So having quality water is a must for Oscars. Now, everything else is up to the fish keeper. You can have sand substrate, or you can have gravel that is too large to be eaten, or you can simply do a bare bottom aquarium, and you could put like a piece of background on the bottom of the aquarium that has like gravel, but it's actually a bare bottom tank with a picture on the bottom of the glass. That would be pretty cool as well. And the reason why I advocate for bare bottom aquariums with fish like Oscars, Oscars produce a lot of waste. And if you have substrate, sometimes that waste is going to get buried under the substrate and it's going to rot and it's going to deteriorate and ruin your water quality. So when you have a bare bottom aquarium, it's easy to siphon out and get that waste out of there. Now, for decorations, you can keep it the bare minimum. Oscars are practically active unless they're introduced to a new environment. And when they're introduced to a new aquarium, they do something that is called sulking, which means they'll lie on their sides. And most people freak out when that happens. They think, oh, the Oscar just died, but really it's just scared and it's getting used to their environment. So I wouldn't freak out too much if the Oscar is brand new to your aquarium. It's probably just getting used to its environment. Sometimes Oscars will sulk when the water quality is off or if another fish is bothering it. So again, decorations can be driftwood, plastic plants, or rock caves where if the Oscar is new, it can go hide and feel secure. All right, the best topic for Oscars is diet, because Oscars are a fish that will continue to eat. They'll be gluttons and not know when they're full, because in the wild, Oscars eat a lot as well. Now, in the wild, naturally, Oscars eat insects. They're insectivores in the wild. They'll get crickets and other insects in the wild. And for some reason, a lot of people in the aquarium hobby have kind of transformed Oscars into fishivores. And that's a shame because in the wild, Oscars will eat small fish, but only when necessary. It's not a natural part of their diet. They only snack on fish, small fish like tetras, when necessary. Because in the wild, their natural diet would be insects, crustaceans, and fruit. Fallen fruit and nuts that fall into the water, the Oscars would take in their natural diet. But having said that, in captivity, they can be trained to eat just about anything. They are not finicky or picky eaters whatsoever. So I recommend feeding your Oscar a high quality diet. So a good quality pellet like New Life Spectrum, Omega 1. Omega 1 has some good seafood pellets. It has krill, shrimp, salmon, and some other food in it that's good for Oscars. You could feed brine shrimp and mysis shrimp and bloodworms to juvenile Oscars. Earthworms are great for any size Oscar. Market shrimp, tilapia, and um, krill is great for Oscars. So pretty much anything that you would feed your other predatory fish, your Oscars are going to eat. As I said earlier, stay away from the feeder goldfish. I don't know why people are so interested in feeding feeder goldfish to their fish, but feeder goldfish are one of the worst things that you can feed to an Oscar. Wow, my camera is so foggy. I'll be right back. I'm going to fix my camera, and when I come back, we'll continue this conversation. All right, we're back. Sorry about that. I just noticed when I was talking about feeder goldfish, my camera was all foggy. It probably was hard for you guys to see me. So anyway, like I was saying, feeder goldfish, a terrible, terrible food choice, not just for Oscars, but for any fish, because they can cause hole in the head and a plethora of ailments to Oscars. Let's not forget that goldfish have no stomachs. So every food they eat is going to translate into waste. And these goldfish, these feeder goldfish, are jammed in aquariums, sometimes by the thousands. And if they have ick or any parasites, it's getting transmitted from one fish to 1,000. So that's why I don't recommend feeding feeder goldfish to any fish, especially Oscars, because like I said earlier, they're very prone to hole in the head. And the last thing to know about Oscars is tank mates. Yes, Oscars can have tank mates. They're not a ferocious killer, but you need to know to have tank mates, you're going to need a large aquarium, definitely 6 feet and larger. Having said that, tank mates for Oscars could be anything that is too big to be eaten, too big to fit in the Oscar's mouth. So some examples of tank mates could be Severums, which are another cichlid that comes from the same region as Oscars, Waru, um, let's see, Jack Dempsey's, which comes from Central America, convicts, firemouth, green terror, geophagus. And if you want to step away from cichlids, you could do any of the silver dollars, which would be the Mentinus or Mylius or Mylosoma. You could do flagtail Procholotus, tinfoil barbs, bala sharks, bikers, datnoids, large catfish like shovelnose, Niger cats, Irwinize, Pictus, Synodontis, larger plecos, etc. Those were all just some examples that I gave you. Um, Bad tank mates would be neon tetras, Reminose tetras, gouramis, because they would just be an expensive lunch, no matter the size of the Oscar. I have seen a 1-inch Oscar try to eat a neon tetra, so those are just bad Oscar tank mates at any point in the fish's life, so stay away from them. Also, try not to put overly aggressive fish with Oscars because the Oscar will get bullied. Oscars are kind of like the bulldog of the aquarium hobby. They think they're big and bad until they meet a more aggressive fish, and that more aggressive fish will bully the Oscar and push them around. So I would not recommend putting Oscars in with Dovi or even Parachromis managuense or Red Devil because the Oscar would get bullied and terrorized unless it's a female. Sometimes I've noticed that female jaguars and red devils are a little bit more docile. But even then, I would be very, very iffy and very skeptical about that successfully working out. All right, so now it's time to see some photos and videos of the beloved Oscar Cichlid, and then we're going to wrap up this amazing video. I had a blast talking about Oscars so far. So now we're going to see some photos and videos of other fish keepers' Oscar Cichlids that were sent in to me yesterday, and I'm really excited to show them off. So let's get right into them. So this is somebody's adult albino tiger Oscar, a very stunning looking fish. I've always been a fan of tiger Oscars and albino Oscars. I would say this next picture I'm about to show you is one of my favorite tiger Oscars in the adult form. This is a beautiful adult tiger Oscar. It looks just like a tiger, and it's awesome looking, and it's got that cool personality that I like about Oscars, that bulldog face. And it's been treated well because it has no signs of hole in the head. A lot of Oscars that I see at the fish stores, they have hole in the head at this size, which is too bad. It's unfortunate. This next picture is actually from my buddy, Sam Garcia Jr., who is actually a nature artist, and he does a lot of paintings on various tropical fish species. Here's his painting of a tiger Oscar. It's a very good painting, and it looks like it's an Oscar that is either in a driftwood aquarium or in a natural environment out in the wild. This is another Oscar that I owned that I forgot to show at the beginning of the video, but here it is now. This is an Oscar that I had purchased from somebody that was leaving a state that I was living in and was leaving fish keeping. And this is one of the most gorgeous tiger Oscars that I've ever owned. And I hope to get one that looks just like that again. And this is this is a regular adult tiger Oscar, another gorgeous one. This one looks to be very healthy as well, and definitely a stunning Oscar. And this is a red Oscar that was at a fish store that someone sent to me. Very, very nice Oscar. And it has a Jack Dempsey living with it, which is pretty cool. All right, so now we saw some images of Oscars. Let's get to our 3 Oscar videos. The first video is of what is called a grade A tiger Oscar. And I think that is some Asian term for a high-colored tiger Oscar. This is from a fish store in Asia. I found this video on Facebook, but these are amazing tiger Oscars. Check them out. So as I told you, those Oscars were actually very, very colorful and very, very pretty. And they look to be around 8 to 9 inches. So hopefully the tiger Oscar that I get today looks like those tiger Oscars. So a lot of fish keepers fall in love with juvenile Oscars, especially when they're as colorful as the next ones they're going to see in this video. So I have to admit, when I go to a fish store and I see Oscars like that, I'm always interested in buying a couple of them and growing them out. They're a very, very beautiful looking Oscar, and I think they're absolutely stunning. And one more video. These are like teenage Oscars, and they're very beautiful as well. Let it, bang, bang. Bang. All right, so as you can see, those are all gorgeous Oscars. I'd like to thank everybody that submitted some photos of Oscars that I was able to share on today's video. So it's time for my closing remarks on the Oscar Cichlid. The Oscar Cichlid is a very, very colorful, personable, and fun fish to keep. If you're looking for a fish with personality and you're looking for something that gets some size to it, then the Oscar is for you. Just be aware that it can reach up to 15 inches and it needs a large aquarium, as I mentioned on earlier in the show, 75 gallons and above. Do not feed it feeder goldfish. It is very prone to hole in the head. And you can actually keep more than one Oscar together. You will need a large aquarium, at least 6 feet, to do it, but it is possible to keep 3 or 4 Oscars together. I recommend keeping 4 just in case 2 decide to pair off. The other 2, if they're male or female, may also pair, and you may end up getting 2 pairs of Oscars, which would be pretty cool. But yes, in a tank like 180 or a 220, you can have multiple Oscars, or even a 125 if you're able to perform lots of regular water changes. Oscar cichlids are a fun fish to keep. They can also be a very rewarding fish, and if you're able to give them time, like in doing water changes and give them proper water quality, they're a fun fish that are going to grow to be a massive 12-inch or more fun fish that you're going to enjoy raising. They're like water puppies. You're definitely going to enjoy them. And they're very affordable. Juvenile Oscars can cost anywhere from $10 to $20. And sub-adults and adults can be a little bit more pricey. They can go anywhere from $50 to $80, depending on where you live. Now, when I was living in Massachusetts, I could find a large Oscar for about $20 or $30, but down here in southern Florida, they go for about $50 to $80, which is odd, especially considering I can go to a canal and catch an Oscar for a much, much cheaper price of free. But nonetheless, I digress. Very affordable fish, very easy to keep, and a fun fish to keep nonetheless. So I hope I answered all of your Oscar questions. I hope I educated you well on Oscar cichlids. If you've never kept one and you've been debating it, I'd say get a bigger tank and then get one, because you're going to enjoy an Oscar cichlid in the long run. Very fun fish, very personable, and they're a very amazing fish. There is a reason they've been so popular in the aquarium hobby over all these years, and that's because they're so easy to keep. So before I end today's video, I have a couple of announcements to make for Aqua Alex Live. So let me make those announcements and then we'll wrap up this amazing video. So my next species profile is going to be in a couple of weeks, because next Thursday is St. Patrick's Day. The St. Patrick's Day badge. So the next species profile is going to be on the pink Cichlid, which is a perfect Oscar tank mate, and that will be in 2 weeks. That'll take place Thursday, March 24th, 2022 at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. So come learn about the pink Cichlid in 2 weeks. And then in 3 weeks, the week after that, we're going to have a species profile on another perfect Oscar tank mate, and that is the common Plecostomus. That's going to wrap up March for us. So in 3 weeks, learn about the common pleco, Thursday, March 31st, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. So those are our next 2 species profiles. Don't forget Saturday, March 26th, 2022, 10 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. I'm hosting my Aqua Alex or Ask Aqua Alex Live, where I answer your tropical fish keeping questions. So email your tropical fish keeping questions and videos and photos of your fish for my fish keeper show off to Alex Go Yankees Cardinale 19 at gmail.com. for the March 2022 Fish Keepers Q&A. And I'm going to play the promo for that right now at the end of today's video. So if you're new to my channel, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, the legendary Alex Cardinale, to catch all my episodes of Aqua Alex Live, my pro wrestling videos, cooking and baking videos, frying videos, and more. If you enjoyed today's video on Oscars, smash that like button, and I will see you on the next episode of Aqua Alex Live. Thank you for tuning in. Feed your fish a high-quality fish food and do plenty of water changes. Enjoy your weekend, guys, and thank you for watching. Hey fish keepers, Aqua Alex Cardinale here, inviting you to the best fish keeping video of March 2022. I'm inviting you to be a part of my 8th Fish Keepers Q&A. Come be a part of March 2022 Ask Aqua Alex Live, where you can ask me any fish keeping questions you have, whether they are freshwater or saltwater. I will answer all of your questions. As a matter of fact, I find it personally rewarding and satisfying to be able to answer your tropical fish keeping questions. I like a good challenge, so ask me any fish keeping questions you can think of, and I will answer them on the March 2022 Fish Keepers Q&A. Email your tropical fish keeping questions to alexgoyankiescardinale19@gmail.com. I will answer all aquarium related questions, whether they are freshwater or saltwater, so get them sent in right now. The Fish Keepers Q&A is going to air live Saturday, March 26, 2022 at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. So please try and get your questions in by March 25th. Also, last month we debuted a segment where I react to other fish keepers' tropical fish photos and videos of your aquarium. We are going to continue that amazing trend. So, send photos and videos of your aquarium and tropical fish to alexgoyankiescardinale19@gmail.com. I'd love to show off your fish and your aquarium. Trust me, I know your tank is gorgeous, and my viewers would love to see your fish and your aquarium. So send those videos and photos to alexgoyankiescardinale19@gmail.com and try to get those in by March 25th. And last but not least, the topics I'm going to cover on the March 2022 edition of Ask Aqua Alex Live include fish species I don't see myself keeping, and for the first time ever, I will talk about aquatic reptiles and aquatic amphibians I want to keep. Believe it or not, I can see myself keeping African clawed frogs and axolotls as examples. This is going to be a fun fish keeping episode. Mark your calendars. It all goes down live Saturday, March 26, 2022, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. You can email your questions, alexgoyankiescardinale19@gmail.com, and also submit photos and videos of your aquarium to alexgoyankiescardinale19@gmail.com as well. I'll see ya on Ask Aqua Alex Live, March 2022 on Saturday, March 26th. May the luck of the Irish be with me, and may the luck of the Irish be with you. Legendary Alex Cardinale here, inviting you to be a part of my St. Patrick's Day 2022 celebration bash. The St. Patrick's Day bash airs next Thursday, March 17th, 2022 at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, right here on my YouTube channel, The Legendary Alex Cardinale. While I may not be Irish, I sure love celebrating St. Patrick's Day, and for the first time, I will celebrate it on my YouTube channel. Chef Alex will be on the St. Patrick's Day celebration. Chef Alex will show you how to make a green velvet cake. Green is the perfect color for St. Patrick's Day. I'll show you how to make a green velvet cake with the cream cheese icing. Green velvet, very similar to red velvet, a vanilla chocolate mixture cake with cream cheese icing. Aqua Alex will also make an appearance on the St. Patrick's Day bash. Aqua Alex will discuss fish that represent St. Patrick's Day, such as green phantom flecos, sebrums, and more. And legendary Alex Cardinale will have a couple of cold ones on the St. Patrick's Day bash. You can't have an Irish celebration without some alcohol. So for the first time on my live stream history, I'll have a couple cold ones with all of you. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Top of the morning to you. And may the luck of the Irish be with you and me. Next Thursday, March 17th, 2022, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, celebrate St. Patrick's Day on my YouTube channel, The Legendary Alex Cardinale.